Or
Here we are. We are live. Welcome to the Alphabet Game with Dr. Brenda and Janine. We are nearing the end of our known alphabet. What's coming up next? You never know. Brenda, I'm going to hand it over to you to introduce yourself. Well, I think you're still actually, looks like you might just be moving things around there.
okay, I've just shared to the group, so I think we're good on my end. Hey, I'm Dr. Brenda. I am a sociologist, a financial coach, a speaker, RVer, and also an escapee right now, an evacuee, because I'm coming at you from my brother's home, evacuated from wildfires on Monday. Today's Friday, hoping to get back Saturday or Sunday. So I'm safe. My cats are safe. My rig is safe and a little bit discombobulated, but we're good to go. We're good to roll. So welcome. Glad you're here. Janine?
Well, I'm glad you're here too, because there's nothing like being sort of brushed on the side with something that is completely outside of our control, whether it is a fire, whether it's a flood, whether it is famine, whether it is a frost that you just sort of stops you in your place. And this is what resiliency is all about. Too bad resiliency didn't start with the letter X, because we could really get into that. But I'm sure there's a way we could do it. My name is Janine McJanet, and I'm coming to you live from the Yukon. I'm an RTT therapist, a hypnotherapist, and an empowerment and play coach, and a fatherless daughter advocate. That's my new thing, and I'm just loving putting all the pieces together. Welcome to the Alphabet Game. We're going to get started on something that's going to be like a really excellent conversation. And I know that's a bit of a cheat. Excellent, but you know, it's all.
Well, you've got something cooked up. I started to do a little research, so I got some good stuff too, but I know that you've got something cooked up, so why don't you start this week?
Okay, well, something I think that I want to share with everyone is that we all have something special in our lives, our skills, our talents, something that makes us unique, something that we love to do as well. And in the world of entrepreneurs, of online and virtual entrepreneurs, there's a term that's used to coin that special gift that you have. And how can we tap into it and use it and amalgamate it with what it is that we make money doing? So it's like finding that special flavor, finding your X factor. What is it that
Ah,
makes you rock, that makes you just feel like time is passing you? So I want to give you my little example of me discovering my X factor. And then I'm going to hand it over to you, Brenda. And if any of you there are curious about it, I want you just to dig into and think, what is it that you really, really, really love to do that brings you excitement, exuberant, that just exemplifies you, that makes you feel like time is just passing? And we've all been in those places where you're like, you just like, you're having so much fun, or you're not thinking about, you're not worrying about something else. You're just in the moment. And for me, that came when I started my business back in 2019. And I was asked that same question, okay, Janine, you're a coach, you're an empowerment coach, you're a nutrition coach, as that's how I started. What else do you have? I'm like, well, what do you mean, what else do I have? Like, what are you good at? And I'm like, well, I don't know, like I write. Yeah, but what do you really love to do? Well, I don't know. So I really explored it, and I challenge you to do that too. Write down every single thing that you love to do that brings a spark. My business name is Health Spark. So what sparks your inside? What starts to make you glow? So I wrote it down. I like to play guitar. I never make money playing the guitar. I like to sing. I like to write. I like to write poetry. I like to dance. I like to tap dance. That's something I love to do. I love to hike. And so I had to narrow it down to one thing that I could bring together with my coaching. And so I landed on poetry. And I'm like, I like poetry. I mean, I haven't written much of it. I love rhyme. And so I landed on that. And it was that night that I sat down at my computer. I put my fingers on there, and it was just like this. I don't know. I just feel it now, like this what that came outside of me. And I wrote down like my first poem that was just incredible. And then I shared it with that group, that same group that helped me. This is the magic of support and networking. And they're like, you just wrote that last night? I said, yeah. And so now I've got like 60 odd poems that are sitting on my computer that I share out, that I do with my coaching and whatnot. And I'll share one at the end if we have time, but that's what the X factor means to me. So every time I think about finding or wanting or creating joy in my life, it's like, what's my X factor? How can I get into that? And honestly, every single time I sit down and just let myself pause and get something out of me in writing, in a poem, it's like, oh, yeah, I feel so much better. It's a healing experience. So that's it. It's X factor. And I took a little bit of time there, but it's important for you to realize this, because so many people lay on their deathbed not knowing what their X factor is, right? And wishing and hoping that they'd done something different, that they'd lived their dream. So on that segue, I'm going to pass it on over to you.
Wow, that's pretty cool.
Mhm.
So I had this discussion just the other day with my brother. I said, you get older, you start thinking about retirement, and that's just a concept that, people usually think of as an on-off switch, which doesn't really exist. And I'm like, what would I do if I didn't need to make money? And the thing is, I'd be doing very similar things because I have to create. It is part of who I am. I'm the person who wakes up at 2 o'clock and gets the laptop out because I've got this idea and I got to get it down before I forget. I am very good at taking something really complicated, finances. I wrote a book on international adoption. I can take things that are really complicated and I can break them down into little pieces that almost anybody can follow. So that's a knack I have. I love writing and I love blending the writing in with the visuals. Whether so I'm working on my money road trip workbook, and you've seen it, and it's like it's this blend of graphics and forms and beautiful stuff mixed in with the text.
Yeah.
That's where the magic happens, blending all that in. But I used to paint rocking chairs, children's rocking chairs, and the time would just disappear. I'd be like, the magic of creating is you're starting with a blank canvas, whether it's a piece of wood, whether it's a piece of paper, whether it's this melody in your head. You're starting blank, and you fill up that paper, you paint, you carve, you do what it is, and it's like each one of us ends up with a unique product. There's nobody who does the same thing as what you do, the same thing as what I do.
The
That
X.
that is the magic of it. It is the magic of creating something out of nothing that only I can do, that only you can do. Your poetry is personal. I can't replicate it. My stories are personal. You can't replicate it. That's the magic. That to me is the X factor.
Yeah. Oh, see that we thought X. Oh my gosh, what are we going to talk about? But this is just opening the doors. You are a creative genius, and what you just said was, if you didn't need the money, you'd still be doing the same thing, and that is just paramount in terms of how you're living your life, the quality of your life. What is success? It always comes down to that. What's your definition of success? And when you're living and doing and feeling and it's all coming together, it's like, this is it. I can tell you, hands up high, that when I was working for corporate, I was not living my best life. I was not have nothing X factorish came into there except for my role as the wellness committee chair, and that I poured everything into. But that was only like 4% of my time there.
Yeah.
But everything was around.
Yeah. Well, it's interesting too, because I was very successful in my career. I'm sure just as you were, but success is defined by your job title and by my salary. And now for a lot of people, you could say I'm unsuccessful in terms of some of that, but it's like, that's the wrong definition. It's the total wrong definition. You're successful when you're really living the life that you were meant to be, and you don't have those regrets like you talked about. It's like, you know what? Things happen. I mean, I've been displaced this week. It's been very much of a roller coaster. The Santa Ana winds have played with my mood this week, which is like, whoa, what is happening here? They're called the devil winds, and I understand why they're called the devil winds. I mean, the wildfire just took off, but I've been reading about it creating like an electromagnetic field that really impacts people's moods. And it's like, whoa, that wasn't something I could have predicted. And so I actually looked online because I'm like, X, it's used as a symbol. And and I found some really interesting stuff. The most powerful letter in the alphabet is the symbol of X. Powerful. And it says, what does it symbolize? It's got diverse meanings representing the unknown, secrecy, danger, and the end. It can have mystical significance as well as scientific or linguistic importance. And do you know why X-rays were called X-rays?
No, tell us, because I was wondering about that.
Yeah, it's because they did not understand how it worked. It
is.
So X meant unknown. You know, we have these X-rays, but they didn't completely understand how these things how they were created. That's where it came from. I'm like, oh, that's really pretty interesting.
Lights just shone on. It's like the X factor. It is the unknown that you have to get clear on. The X-ray, what you just explained. X-Files is a movie on the TV. It was like this mysterious, somebody dies. How are they going to figure it out? So that's really cool. I mean, I like that.
Yeah, it's also, I mean, the other part of it that gravitates to me, like we've had, famous civil rights leader Malcolm X, and people sort of adopt X because we don't know where we're coming from. Named by slave owners, you've lost that original background of your name, and X becomes a symbol of the unknown. Yeah. So I thought that was really interesting too, how it's used for many Africans. X is a marker of absence because some slave owners never gave their slaves a name. Mm-hmm. And
Christianity symbol, isn't it?
Yeah. Yep. So it's I mean, Generation X, if you're born between 1964 and 1981. So I was born in 1963, so I'm just missing out on Generation X.
What are you then?
The end of the baby boomers, the very end. But it was first coined in a 1964 publication, Generation X, Tales for an Accelerated Culture. It's a demographic often described as a group of people who didn't want to concern themselves with societal status, pressure, and money. Their future is uncertain. And it's interesting too, because as a financial coach, I'm moving more into the environmental sustainability. And it's like, we have to change how we think about status. So we're thinking about, reusing and recycling and creating, using renewable energy, and all of these things is actually can be used to grow your wealth and to sustain the planet. So I'm starting to think maybe like Generation X.
Yeah, that's interesting. You just said we have to change. And many of us are filled with this yearning for change, yearning to transform. We have to become aware. We have to be curious, all of those different things. We have to take action for change to happen. And that is beautifully attributed to one word. And that word is zenacious.
Is what?
It's the new one. Filled with the yearning for change. Zenacious. Xenacious. And I came across that word and I went, that is like in my blood.
Wow.
I had to look up how to pronounce it because it looks like zenacious, but it's zenacious. So if you are filled with that yearning for change, what the heck are you going to do about it? Stop. This is me just getting on a rant now. Stop just thinking about changing and transforming and do something. Find your X factor. Find what you love to do. Cut the crap from your life. Like if it's a person, so be it. If it's conversations, if it's moods, if it's thoughts, get into your beliefs and become really zenacious and do something about it. I just think that it's important. I love that.
That was perfect. Well, the word that popped out at me was Xanadu, and you wrote back Olivia Newton-John. I'm like, oh boy, okay, but Xanadu is an idealized place of great or idyllic magnificence and beauty. And I keep thinking about, like, I've been on the road and I've seen incredible things, but it's like we're all looking for our Xanadu, the place where we live, the place where we call home, or we keep chasing this thing. And there's a country song, and the singer's like, wherever you go, there you are. Because we have this idea, if I only moved to this community, things would be really different. If I only, had this experience, my life would be different. Wherever you go, there you are. So you're transporting yourself into another environment. And if you're not doing the internal work, the external environment really isn't going to matter.
That is so similar to the function of xylem, which transports the nutrients up and down. It conducts the water and it moves things from the inside out. I can't believe how that just came there. But the xylem, and I remember in science when I was young, you cut it and you look under the microscope, the xylem and phloem, and they're beautiful. Like I just love the microscope because it gets right into the details, what's going on inside. So the xylem is the vascular tissue in plants that conducts water and dissolved nutrients upward from the root, and also helps to form that woody element of the stem. So how does that compare to us? Like, we are grounded. This is us, our own family tree, and we are, moving from the ground up towards our branches and growing with our X factor, trying to find our Xanadu in a very Xanacious manner, right?
Wow.
That's a good one.
Wow. I'm out of X. We got to keep talking. What else you got in that little library of
Well,
yours?
you just have that picture of a cat behind you, and it's like a Siamese Persian cat. And I saw that. And I know you have a story, but you didn't have to wait, because I used to have a cat like that too, like a long time ago, when I was living up here before my dad passed away. And its name was Xerxes. And Xerxes is Xerxes. And it was beautiful.
Wow.
It was just this beautiful little cat. I didn't have it for long because I ended up moving back to Australia. But I often, who is Xerxes? It was a Persian god, right? And I'm like, oh, and I didn't research into it completely. But when I took ancient history, Xerxes, I thought, oh, that's got a great ring to it. Until I realized that, and this is what my mind does every now and then, I take words and I love them. I play with them. I see how they rhyme. And this is part of my X Factor genetic makeup. And I turn them around and I spell them backwards sometimes. Like, my husband's name is Truck backwards and my name is Eninage. Sex Rex is what Xerxes is backwards.
Oh, okay.
So there's a few little X's in there with cats, but yeah, that's one of my X's.
Yeah. So the story is, I was sitting here. This is, again, I'm in my brother's office and the calendar was October. So I thought, okay, I'm just gonna flip the calendar over. There was a dog. It's the Humane Society calendar. So I flipped it over and there's a cat, Siamese, and the cat's name is Coco, which is my cat's name, which is, it's been interesting. They've got two dogs here. It took the dogs 3 days to figure out there are cats in that room. Dogs are not real fast learners, are they?
Well, some are. Some are. Mine are. Sort
Yeah,
of.
so now the German Shepherd lays down right by the door, like she's protecting the door. I'm thinking she's protecting the cats, and it's really kind of humorous. But yeah, I turned it over and I'm like, there's Coco the cat. I'm like, well, how weird is that? Very weird. I would like to put in a plug for something like, so for folks who are living where there's any chance of wildfires, there's this app called Watch Duty. So while you were talking, I got a notice because I've got it notified for my fire, Highland Fire. But I just want to make sure people are aware of a lot of the apps. This is the US, so I don't know. I'm sure there's stuff like that in Canada as well. But if you don't have it on your phone, and our continent is prone to fire in so many areas. So anyway, that's my little plug. I keep monitoring to see if I can get back into the RV this weekend.
So what brings on these huge events that can create chaos and catastrophe? Is it the landscape? Is it the man-made landscape? Is it just the natural? Is it, I mean, around our neighborhood, this neck of the woods, they have something called Fire Smart, and you go and cut down the trees. So if a fire does come, it's not going to just wipe everything out.
Right.
Whether it works is it it cleans things up a bit.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
but
I mean, I'm taking a course to become a climate steward. It's indisputable. We are in the midst of climate change, global warming, and it is caused by human behavior. It is caused by the rampant, learning this difference between carbon dioxide. There's carbon dioxide that is normal that we breathe out, and there's carbon dioxide that is created mostly by fossil fuels that has created a blanket over the earth, so the heat waves that we're reflecting off no longer reflect off. It is humans are destroying the planet. Now, the nice thing about my climate change course is we're being introduced to people on the ground who are making big differences in technology and in bringing solar power to low-income housing, for instance. Because when you think about what we're doing to this planet, it's depressing, and you feel powerless. I feel powerless. We feel powerless. And I'm like, you know what? I can do a few things in my little corner of the world, including how we can actually grow our wealth and sustain the planet at the same time by not going into the massive overconsumption that this society has, by being smart and investing in green technologies. So anyway,
there you are being tenacious.
It's Janine, you know what? I remember being in college. I went to the University of Wisconsin at Eau Claire, and I became a sociologist because I took this course in research methods, and I was able to do my own independent study. You know what I did? I was like 20 years old. I'm in the basement of this dusty library looking at census tract data to see. We have the EPA, Environmental Protection Agency here. They have Superfund sites, massive pollution areas that need to be cleaned up. And there's a correlation between low income minority communities and the places where these Superfunds were located. So I wanted to see what came first and look at the demographics of these highly polluted areas. And there's a definite correlation. I was doing this when I was 20 years old. Here I am. I'm weeks away from turning 60. Okay, 40 years later. And I always wanted to do more on the environmental side. And it's like, you know what? This is my last hurrah. I'm gonna go for it. I'm gonna go for broke. I'm gonna incorporate in the environment and the planet and sustainability into my financial programs. But you talk about full circle.
Yeah. Well,
it's blowing me away.
It's funny how we all tend to do that. And that's coming back to your passion, right? It's coming back to what your initial intuition let out there. And I love the work that you're doing. It's exemplary. It is. It is. So I want to share a quick poem before we round up. This is and then we're not rounding up for
we're doing good today. We've got time.
But this is one. It's not my first or second poem. I think it's about my 7th or 8th. And I started to, just write poems that were really A, B, rhyme, not rhyme, rhyme, not rhyme. I have never studied poetry, but I love the words and I love finding new words to express it. Oh my gosh. So I decided to really integrate that with the work that I do. And I'm like, maybe I'll just do that. And the people that were around me then, there were some of those, what do they call them? Like the word, not hip hop, but a little bit of the word artists, right? So I'm going to share with you this one. And this is a bit of who I am and what I do. And here we go. Okay. I'm going to put a little bit of hip hop into it. This is fun. This is just fun. Okay. Don't quote me. Okay. Reframe your pain, get out of the shame, turn around the blame and make your claim why you are on this planet. My name is Janine McJanet, and I help build confidence and make change to rearrange the patterns and games that keep you stuck in the dark muck so you can chuck what you don't need. And you can be freed from all that greed to need control, to find and achieve your goal, make your whole, revive your soul. To just be you, to just be true, you got to find the clue and shed the glue that keeps you bound. Stand on your ground and look around and speak your truth. Speak your vulnerable truth. Yeah, acknowledge your youth. So when you cast into your past, you'll catch the lessons that form your essence, and to shine in your presence, just be you, just be true, and bring through your new story, your new glory, your new wild desire to fly higher, your fierce love to rise above, and just be you.
Woohoo! You are an evangelist.
Oh, I'm a word artist.
Well, you've got the passion, you've got the excitement, you've got a message. That's what it's about, getting your message out, however it suits you.
Yeah. And that's a bit of my X factor sharing with you. So I challenge again, what is it that you can do that you can make a difference? Because we're all on this planet to make a difference, right? We are. You've just shown a great integration of the environment and the finances of work you're doing. Mine is like the personal development and play and fun. I use poetry for play. And so, what is it that you can do to help others? I mean, we all end up in a place where we want to serve. Not all. I take that back. Many of us, not enough of us, end up in a place where we want to help others with our wisdom and experience behind us, right? So what can you do? That's the challenge. If you're
Yeah.
sitting there feeling stuck in the muck and don't know which way to go, get back into your X factor. Start to figure out what it is you want to do. Start to play more, right? How can we all play more? How can we bring the element of play into our lives and not be so freaking serious and not take things so personal in this world that it's just like feels like, and it can feel really hard. I mean, for you, I felt a lot over the last few days of having to be rushed out of your new home. That was so exciting. And you can take it two ways. Like, that's your choice. You can go, oh, I've got really bad luck and blah, 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 and start to go down that well. Or you can go, what new opportunity is arising from this, you know?
Yeah, and it's you asked me, you messaged me, said how do you feel? And I said, grateful.
Yeah.
I feel that's the overwhelming feeling. And I do want to talk a bit about it, because you're fleeing with your life and you grab what's important to you. And first of all, I learned like 3 of us like put on newer shoes, because it's like, well, if this thing's going to burn, I'm going to let the old shoes burn. I'm going to put on these shoes because they're newer and I like them better. So that was, it's the funny things that you do. But it was, as I left, there were flames coming right up towards the park, and I thought, we're not gonna make it. Everything's gonna be all, rigs have propane, so these things go up and just burst. I really thought, you know what, I'm not gonna have it. I've got insurance. What do I do? And you start to think about all those things. And the thing is, I had my cats. I've got a little safe, and I grabbed all my legal documents, grabbed some clothes, and I had time. I could have grabbed more. And I'm like, you know what? I mean, I had plenty of room in my car. I could have piled it up, but there's nothing that's really that important other than what I had grabbed. And I thought, you know what? It's a reminder that stuff is stuff. It's painful to lose these things, but I'm not losing a pet. I'm not losing a human being. I'm not losing a friend. I'm not losing myself. We can't predict what's going to happen from day to day. And I mean, for me, I just finished an interview on Zoom, and I was downloading it, and I smelled fire. It was like 12:30. in the afternoon. And I went out and I'm like, okay, little plume of smoke, check my app, 10 acres. And by 3 o'clock, we were under mandatory evacuations with sparks and ash raining down on us, and the fire just looming, turning into 2,500 acres. And I'm about to start Dream Week, and a lot of our dreams, we have to start with a safe place to live, a safe place to sleep. That's like the basic rudimentary need that we all have. But beyond that, invest in ourselves. When we accumulate all this stuff, I mean, it doesn't really bring us happiness. We leave this earth without it. I don't know. I just feel really more certain of my values in treasuring experiences and treasuring memories and treasuring the things that I can do and the things I bring to the world versus the stuff that I own. Really it's just such a powerful
It's a letting go.
reminder for me.
It's kind of like an internal letting go and realizing that, potentially there is that desire to have, but it's also a really good reminder that we have so very little within our control. And what you've just described, the three types of business, that Byron Katie talks about, is God's business, where it's absolutely zero control. That's what's just happened to you. So it's like, have to let go. You have to, otherwise it's just going to be in your mind and your brain eating at you.
Right.
And then there's other people's control, other people's business, which really you can enter into, and you can try to think that you're going to, it's your business, but ultimately it's none of your business, and you have zero control over that too. And then the very smallest circle is your own business. And so when we start to look at what is my business, what is in my control, you will find that a lot of the things that we're worried and stressed about are right out there. And so
yeah, I like that. I really like that. It is perfect, especially for this time, and even the decisions the decisions we make with our business and with our personal lives. You know what? We don't know what the outcome is.
never.
I can tell you what I'm working on, which parts are going to really take off and which parts are going to fizzle out. If I had that crystal ball, right? That's how we feel. But I can follow my passion. I can follow my X factor, my talent, and put it out in the world and let people know that, hey, this is out there. Come on,
Legacies.
come on in. Let's do this together.
Yeah, that's for sure. Absolutely. Okay.
All right, my friend. Let's wrap her up. So I'm gonna jump in and just say, hey, I've got Dream Week starting Sunday night, and it's there were times when my dreams were dead, and times when I just worked all the time, and I was just trying to get through day to day. And we've got to take a little bit of time for ourselves, and that's what this week is about. We've got it going live Sunday, Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday for about an hour, really working together. I've got some great video interviews, and I'm going to invite you guys in, join me for Dream Week, and I'll have the link in the in the description. So excited about that. And tomorrow I've got a climate steward field trip hoping to make, and I love learning about the environment and ways that we can improve it and change.
It's coming together. Your Dream Week sounds fantastic.
It's going to be.
It is. Yeah. It's snowing out right now.
Oh,
Yeah, snow is coming down. I'm working on a summit, Woman Empowered and Live, and I'm learning so much. And I've just hired my first staff, a VA, a virtual assistant, which I never thought I'd do, but I'm learning more and more that we can't do everything by ourselves as much as we want to. So that's going on. And I've got some really great things happening in my group as well. And I'm working on fatherless daughters and creating a fantastic program with that. And I have got an inner child play date coming up. So that's my favorite. That's really just a wonderful little event. But I'm going to just show you guys what this snowy wonderland looks like, if you can see.
Oh my gosh. Wow.
So there's a lake out there, and just out there, when I came here yesterday, I heard this, and there was a gaggle of swans. I don't know if that's what you call them. It's a gaggle of geese, isn't it? A whole bunch of swans and their babies just landed right on the water, right there. And I just took a moment, and this is the power of the presence, right? And I just watched them gather, and all the little ones who are still black, that's how you can identify the trumpeter swans from the white ones. They landed quite shakily and far away from the cluster. And then they came in, and then they kind of moved over to the edge of the ice, which is now forming. And the white ones, the mums, it got up there, and then the babies would try and get up and try and get off until they were all just standing on the ice together. And I'm
Yeah.
like, oh, that's family. That's excellent.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's the magic of this incredible planet that we live in. So take it all in. All right, well, we're going to close out, and X, Y, we do Y, and then Z, and boy, we got to come up with some really fun
Z, well,
stuff for
that's gonna have a
2024, my
conversation.
friend.
It's not Z, it's Z in Canada. So that'll be fun.
Say what?
We don't say Z, we say Z. XYZ.
Really?
Canadians, yeah.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Okay, all right, well, ciao, guys. Thanks for joining us.
Ciao.